for being here. I hope you've all got a drink and a snack.
Priorities.
So it's even later for you. So I really am appreciative of you being here too at this time of night and staying with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I hope you have a drink.
No, I have a coffee and a water and a wine, actually. Something for everything.
There we go. So one of the reasons I didn't sleep very well last night was because I can't put your blooming book down.
Oh, brilliant. That's what I like to hear.
Right. So I can't wait because you're already here. So I'm just gonna. Can I tell you something? Can I tell you a secret? Nobody's listening. I have a deep, deep gratitude for you for a very personal reason. So here we go. Sally, bearing her soul. Well, I used to be an avid reader, and then I had children, and my oldest child is 10. And since I had children, so that's 10 years, I have not read a book for pleasure. Well, that's not strictly true. I have not read a fictional book for pleasure. I have read many, many hundreds and hundreds of books. I'm an avid reader still, and I audible and I listen to them constantly, hours a day, like in between sleeping and not sleeping and things. But because I'm a mumpreneur and I'm running my own business, so there's not that 9 to 5 schedule of at 5 o'clock I'm off. I realize, and I think all, I'm assuming, mums, or maybe not, maybe some have brilliant strategies around this, but I think many of us can identify with not being able to switch off completely from business because it's kind of a 24-hour thing. So when I'm reading, I'm always learning, I'm always studying, I'm always learning about new things. So all of my books are for learning, and I almost feel guilty. There's that terrible word that mumpreneurs should stop using and ban. I feel guilty to just pick up a book simply for pleasure. So I haven't read a book for pleasure. I haven't read a novel. I haven't read a fictional book, but I've read millions on neuroscience and, development and all sorts of things, but none purely for pleasure. So because you were coming on, I managed to excuse myself because it's research, right? So I started to read your book, and I have to tell you, it was only about 6 to 8 pages in that I had this massive emotional reaction. I am so happy to be just reading for pleasure and enjoying that mode of escapism and being able to just switch off and not feel guilty about it, because it was like I'd framed it, it's all, we do it to ourselves, but I'd reframed it as something that I kind of had to do a little bit. So I was allowed that time, and I enjoyed it so much, and just that feeling again of just reading something for pure pleasure that I wouldn't, it wouldn't come across my world, and just turning the pages. And your books are now I want to read them all. I haven't managed to read them all yet, but they're so page turny, and you can identify in them as a woman. But they're escapism too, and you can wander off. And I just really, whilst it's not our time to officially start, I just wanted to put that out there and say thank you so much, because that is you are the person who has allowed me to read for pleasure again, and it's been wonderful and joyous. So thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. It's so lovely to hear, because obviously as a writer, that's what you want. You want to help people to have a little bit of time for themselves. So reading is about escapism and actually a bit of you time. So that's really great to hear. Thank you.
It's so fun, and I'll also tell you, whilst we're waiting for people to jump back on, I think I mentioned to you this before, but we I should stop admitting things. In our house for a while, there was a period of time where my partner used to jokingly say, because I'm English and I was in Australia, and you have stories, don't you, of your past, and he would jokingly say, did you used to work for like MI5 or something? Do you have is that why you're here? Are you undercover? Do you
know things?
Of course, I jumped at this, and made the most of it. And so we have this ongoing joke of me being a bit of an ex-ninja. And I realized that it had gone too far when my son came home from school one day really upset because his friend had said to him, "Your mum is not a ninja," and he got really upset. And I thought, oh dear, we'd been having fun with this for a few years, and it's gone too far. So when I found your book, Cool Mum, I was like, there it is again. It's not just me.
It's not. It's all mums and ninjas. You have to multitask. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to do all these juggling things all at once, and it's it's mind-boggling, really. But so I think every single parent is a ninja.
I agree with that. It's just reframing the word ninja, isn't it? Reframing the definition. Yeah. Okay. So it's 8:31. So I will officially now introduce you. So welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the amazing Lizzie Chantree, Elizabeth Chantree. I know you sometimes go by Elizabeth, sometimes Lizzie. You are an extraordinary woman. Told you how, there's so many things that you have touched me with already, but you are an international best-selling author, a super mum, and then the thing that I didn't know about you earlier on was that you were first an inventor. And I read that you had been on all of the shows. I'm English, so I obviously grew up in England, and all of the shows that we all love, the morning shows. And Gloria Honeyford, I saw you were on her show. And when I saw your product, I realized that I am very familiar with that product because it was a thing that used to be on the cashier's desks in department stores as you went to pay as that little extra. And it is the spray that you spray on your tights to stop them lathering. Is that right?
Right, yes, runaway spray. That's it.
So how on earth did that come about, first of all? And you were 18 when you had your first business, and then you invented that product. So tell us a bit of your backstory.
Yeah, so I started my own business. I've been made redundant, so I started my own business when I was 18 because I was making products and a lot of people were asking for the products. So that grew into a retail and wholesale business over 15 years. And during the time I was at university, I just had a project to come up with a product. And it was basically like put an orange and a lilo together and come up with an orange lilo. It was something just sort of get to know each other. And I thought, well, how about looking for a product that actually found a gap in the market? And I'd been out and I'd laddered my tights and I thought there's nothing for that. And it took 10 years of research and development to get the product right, because obviously I had to work, earn some money, make the bit of the product, get it tested, things like that. So 10 years of, I had a market store at the start when I had my first business. So it took quite a long time to obviously earn enough money to pay the patent fees and things like that. And I used to go to the patent office and then I'd have all these questions written down and I'd literally book half an hour of their time and then I'd barrage them with questions. And yeah, after the 10 years, we actually had a physical product that worked and was really good. And I was really lucky that I had interest. I actually met on the Richard and Judy show. I met, I ended up going, made contacts there. And then I ended up having the product in the Arcadia group and it was in Superdrug. So as sort of a young person, it was quite an exciting time in my life, something I had to learn about really quickly, about distribution and all this kind of thing, packaging. So it was, and from that grew Runaway Spray, which is like a ladder stop spray for tights and stockings.
Amazing. Yeah, that must have been an absolute blast. Did you meet Richard and Judy as well as Gloria?
Yes, yeah. When I wrote a script for, funny enough, now I'm a writer, I actually wrote a script for them because they needed they were doing a script that was quite old fashioned and they wanted a modern version of that script. So they came in and said, oh, you use chemicals, you know how to work with chemicals, can you write us a script? And I was like, I don't know if I can write you a script. So I sat there with one of the girls from the show and we wrote a script very quickly, and then Richard and Judy acted it out. So it was absolutely phenomenal for I didn't really know what was going on in my world, but it was absolutely brilliant.
Wow, what a ride. So from inventor, so did you think this was your gig now? Did you think this is what you were going to do?
I was still working as well at the same time. I had my own business, and my business was going very well. Like I say, then it was all sort of in the media. It was on TV shows and radio, you know, that worldwide service, things like that. So it was like a really crazy time. But my child became unwell, so for me, I had to take a step back from my business and have a complete and utter change from what I was doing. And again, that was really unexpected as well, because I had a successful business and just had to make those hard decisions. I needed to be at home with my child. So that kind of changed my path. And, you know, what I'm doing now is something very, very different, but I absolutely love it. And it's really weird the way it came about.
Wow. So again, almost your writing career came about almost out of a necessity to have to be at home because of a sick child.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wrote my first book. My child had been unwell for 10 years by that point, and I just needed to stay awake to listen to her breathing. So, well, when I started writing, she was about 2. And I just needed to stay awake, and I tried coffee and sugar and all the things that aren't good for your body and everything like that. In the end, I'd always been on writing courses and been part of writing groups, and I thought, you know what, I'll try to write a book overnight. So I just sat in an office with a baby monitor there, listening to her, and over the next year I wrote my first book, Rejuvenate, and then I hid it for 5 years. Yeah, I just stuck it in a cupboard and forgot about it until her health started to improve.
Wow. So you wrote it, forgot about it, and at what point did you get it out again and think this is okay?
It literally was like 5 years later, and she started to gradually get a bit better, started at school, still lots and lots of hospital visits and things like that. We still didn't know what the problem was. So obviously it was a very, very stressful time. And so that's why I write books that are kind of uplifting, because it's about relationships and people and the way we think things we do and why we think the way we do. And then after that 5 years, I kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll get it out of the cupboard and just have a little look at it. And I read a magazine article about self-publishing, and I thought, do you know what, I'll give that a go. But at that time, I did send it to a publisher, and they did offer me a contract straight away. So I had the publishing deal, but because my child was so unwell, I felt I couldn't give the publisher what they would need. I felt it was unfair. They did wait for me for 6 months. I was very lucky. But in the end, I turned the publishing deal down so that I could just concentrate on my child. And then I wrote 2 more books and self-published those as well. And then once I'd written the 3rd book, I decided to again try for a publisher. And I was really lucky again. First publisher I contacted offered me a contract. So
Wow.
yeah, really, really bizarre, considering, you know, the journey from having my own business for so long, and the amount of stress and everything. But writing has really helped me. It's helped me sort of come through really depressive times, really worrying times, sad times, and then out of it has come something really, really happy, which is, you know, my daughter says now she's like the catalyst of my new career, which she totally is, you know.
Oh, so how beautiful, what a beautiful sign. She sees that as something she's created too.
Yeah.
So just as I said to Geeta, you know, you say you're lucky, you're an incredible writer. So clearly the publishers that you contacted saw that you were an incredible writer, and that, you know, I don't think it was luck. I just think you have a gift. So the book, one of the things I love about you, they're brilliantly written. I can't wait. You know, some of my there's a few people who might hear this who'll know what they're getting for Christmas, but I can't wait to spread the books, because I know that people are going to. They're so readable, and they're just a lovely read. But one of the things that I love about you and that attracted me to you was that there's a theme which is about women being more than they think that they are, you know, and I love that. So tell me about that. Did that just happen because you're sitting there imagining, or is that something that's, you know, where does that come from? Because that is a theme, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, all of my books have got like female entrepreneurs in them. So they're all around some pretty quirky and unusual businesses. But it came from my child being so unwell. I wanted to write something uplifting, something that would just, away from my life at the time, it was so sad and so depressing. I wanted something really happy and uplifting. And I also wanted to sort of reach out to women really and show them that sometimes there is light, you know, that out of something so awful, other things can come. And sometimes you think you can't do something, and actually you can do it the whole time. It's just self-belief. If you knew you could do it, you'd have done it like 10 years earlier. It's just grabbing yourself and saying, come on, you know, you can do it. You just got to try. And if that doesn't work, try something else.
Yes. So I'm gonna dig a little deeper there, because when you're in a dark time, your life's changed, you're sitting there with a child listening to their breathing, which must just be one of the most stressful, awful times. How do you know? How do you know at that time? You know, you're now saying, you know, we have this belief that good things can come out of it. But at that time, how did you know? Like, what was the thing that was making you know that you'd be able to get through this tricky period?
I don't think I did know at that time. It was so awful. I literally didn't sleep. I was all smiley outside and inside really sad. It's one of those things that people do as a coping mechanism, isn't it? So I didn't know. All I knew was I was grabbing onto this writing because it lifted me. It kind of, for a time, it parked the worry, because I was writing books. So I didn't have time to be so fearful. And I was also writing about women that were quite courageous. They didn't know they were courageous, but they are. And it kind of gave me a bit of empowerment to, like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? You know, in a way. It was very odd, but
well, I don't think it is very odd. I think it's a brilliant strategy, and this is why I want to dig into it, because I think it's really useful for other people. So what I hear you saying is that you were a Beyonce, and you almost created an avatar where you needed to be strong and you needed to have hope, but when you're exhausted, those things are hard to come by, aren't they? So you almost, what I think you're saying is that you created this within your book. So as you're writing, are you almost writing for you as an avatar version of you, how you want to be?
They are kind of aspirational characters where they're kind of seeing through the pain, they're seeing through their problems, but also it's kind of just like an uplifting feeling, really. I think from writing, some of the characters are quite bonkers, so in a way it lifts me out of any moods and things like that. So I don't think the characters are me, because we're all quite different, but there's parts of me in them, I guess, because obviously, you know, it's reaching for that self-belief and the self-strength to kind of carry on even through adversity, I think, is the thing that sort of carries through my books, because of what I've had to go through with my family and things like that. And you know, now I have a lovely business that's so completely different to something I could have ever thought. Who'd have ever thought that would happen? But it just shows that it is possible. And so throughout my books, it is about like reaching for those dreams and just giving things a try, and really just believe in yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think it's because, you know, I think you can only imagine what you have within, right? Really. So I still see an aspect of, in these characters, even though you're enjoying the creation of kind of bonkers things and different things that you aren't and would never be, but within them are these qualities that carry them through, that you were kind of digging into at a time where you need it. So I kind of think, for us this year, for women who've had a difficult time, I think there's a really powerful message in that instead of looking into either, you know, how it's been, or getting stuck in a shitty place that might be the present moment, there's a lot to be said for focusing on A, the qualities that you want to be that are going to carry you through, and B, the future, where you want to get to. So you're saying those kind of aspirations, those dreams, those being able to get to a happy place, being able to create, were the things that got you through those really difficult times. So I think there's real power in that for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely, about having dreams and, just reaching for them and trying for them, and whether they work out or not. And if something doesn't work, then reach for something else. But actually, in backing yourself a little bit, thinking, well, before I'd think, oh, I just can't do it. That's why the book stayed in the cupboard. And then I thought, actually, well, maybe I can do it. Who knows if I can do it or not if I haven't tried it. So therefore, come on, girl. But I'm one for putting myself in situations which I never would have done before, years before. Whereas now I think, oh, that situation really, it worries me. But because I can be quite shy, I talk a lot, but I can be quite shy. But now I push myself. I'm like, that might make me worried, but I'm going to do it anyway. I might go to a conference or something and then stay really away from everybody. And then people will text me and say, well, where were you? We would love to see you. And now I think, well, that's just ridiculous. That's a waste of everybody's time. So now I will go and I will push myself and I will introduce myself to people and say hello, even if it makes me feel uncomfortable. Because for me, that's a challenge. I'm challenging myself all the time to just try something different. If I don't like, it makes me nervous, then maybe that's a good thing because it's out of my comfort zone. So some things that are out of your comfort zone aren't always a bad thing. Give them a try.
Absolutely. And I think there's such power in that too, because there's a lesson about the failure that we talked about earlier, in that there aren't really any failures. The only failure is not trying because you never tried. If you try something and it falls over, you're a step closer to it working because you know what didn't work. And I guess you went through this as you were an inventor in that process of the light bulb. Like you would have had to go, I've got the idea now, that didn't quite work.
And I had to learn. Yeah, I had to, when I invented that product, I had to learn how to make it because I'm not a chemist, I'm not an engineer. So I taught myself how to make it, and I learned about chemicals and I learned about a bit of engineering, and I knew, I went, asked people, I asked the questions, I got things out of libraries and I studied, and and I made this product that's never been there before. So I was, quite shocked with myself, to be fair. But you've just got to give these things a try. And I just think, like you say, it's the same with writing. Like I always say, because I run writing groups and book clubs and things like that, and I'm always saying to writers, get the words onto paper, because that's one more word than you had yesterday. Even like a lot of people get daunted by someone saying, well, I've written 5,000 words today, or I've written 3,000 words today. Someone might write 3 words or 300 words or a page. It doesn't matter. You've still got more than you had the day before. So just push yourself to try and get the words down or start the job that you really want to do.
That's it. And I think that message can be expanded out to all of us in reaching our tasks. So as entrepreneurs, as we all are always creating different things, wherever we're at, we're always creating. And sometimes I think, particularly as mompreneurs, we can get overwhelmed. If something happens in the family, if something happens in the household, or in a different, or health, or a child's health, it can collapse in on itself and it can be just get overwhelmed. And I think a huge lesson and a practical tip is just to keep moving forward. Like you said, it could be 3 words that day, and another day you might write 5,000. But if you don't write 3 words every day, you're not going to edge closer. And I think in whatever we're creating in our businesses, that's a really important lesson. And particularly for this year, because for 2 reasons. Number one, I think a lot of businesses have slowed down or stopped, particularly if you're in the B2B businesses or events businesses, or it's just stopped. And so there's an element of how do you get it back up moving? And I think the answer is gradually, step by step, every day. But there's also a lot of women I know in these times who have taken this, whether they've been pushed because they've lost a job, or their partners have lost a job, or because they've had the time perhaps to think about their life and take stock because everything's changed. There are a lot of women who have used this year to finally make the leap into starting their own business, or making a leap forward to creating what it is they create. And I think now, because I've had lots of these conversations with people, if we've done that, now we're into Christmas, there's an element of, oh shit, I've just spent a few months getting to this point, now everything's stopping, or now I have to stop, or now what do I do? And I think the message again is a little bit each day, a little bit towards the goals, isn't it? Instead of overwhelm, just chipping away. So I love that analogy with just get some words on a page every day.
Yeah, totally. Just, and also don't overwhelm yourself, because I think sometimes we give ourselves so many jobs and so many tasks that we totally overwhelm ourselves. So what I tend to say to people is to write a list maybe, and then have sub-list and a sub-list, and take out the ones that you don't actually need to do. Do you need to do them today? Can they wait tomorrow or a month or a week or whatever? And then prioritize so that your day isn't so overwhelming. And then you actually think, right, I can do those tasks because I can fit them in with the school runs and the housework and the, you know, we all feel overwhelmed by trying to fit in, you know, family life, work life. You know, it's so much for everybody to handle. So, or maybe can you delegate a job? Can you ask someone to help you with washing up or the washing or cook the dinner for you? You know, even if it's once a week, just to give you that time to sort of refocus yourself. And things like reading and relaxing as well, as far as I'm concerned, play a big part, because you do need the self-care. And with creative jobs, you need the creativity of like going out and seeing a friend or having a chat or a phone call. Those kind of things, all for me, would help me be more productive, because I'm having that time to sort of reflect and sort of fill up the creative tanks.
Yeah, there's some really good points there I'd like to go into. So first of all, the part of letting things go. So I struggled with this for a long time, believing, because I do believe that, you know, my passion is to help us realize that we are more than we think we are, and we can overcome, and we are more, and we're not limited. And, you know, with that, so I have a firm belief that we can create and we're unlimited. With that is the practicality of living in this world and not being able to do you can't be at work for 8 hours a day and be with your kids for 8 hours a day. So there are things that you just can't do. And it took me a long time to do exactly this, and sort of because when every mompreneur is a superwoman and fits it all in. But I think the message that sometimes you can't do it all at the same time, all the time you can't do it all at the same time, is so important. And so it is, isn't it? It's reevaluating when we feel overwhelmed, what needs to be done now and what can go, and with no guilt.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, that's a learning tool though. It's something you learn, I think, especially with age or with time or experience, is like, because we all feel guilty, like, have I done enough today? I should have done this, or why didn't I get that done? You know, so in a way, like seeing those visual tools, you think, well, okay, I didn't do the washing today, but that can be done tomorrow. I didn't check my social media today, but, you know, I'll fit that in a lunch hour another day. You know, there are ways to claw back that time. But also to treat yourself with a bit of kindness. I think we all beat ourselves up so much all the time, which again comes through in my books. It's like, be kind to ourselves, because we really are our own worst critics a lot of the time. When actually we can do a lot, you know. We have skills. We should actually give ourselves a little pat on the back sometimes, which I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. You know, talking to our friends, family, nobody ever feels they're that enough sometimes. And I think that's something that is such a shame with everyday life, when actually people achieve more than they know that they do.
I absolutely agree. And I think particularly women, we can be very hard on ourselves. And I think the message of treating yourself as you would your best friend, that voice in your head, you know, that voice in your head, if you pay attention to it for a little bit and just observe how you talk to yourself, you wouldn't talk to your worst enemy like that for a lot of us. So I think there's a huge lesson in absolutely paying attention to the self-talk and the berating, and then just reframing it into how would you talk to your best friend? How would you talk to somebody that you care about?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, especially as you say, someone you care about, we actually need to care about ourselves, because if we're too drained or we're too worn out, we don't have the energy to care for the people around us. So, you know, when my daughter was ill, I learnt that quite quickly. It's like I was so exhausted and run down, and I just despair, really. So you have to claw it back, and you have to have a little bit of time for yourself, because otherwise you've got nothing left to give.
Absolutely. You can't care for your daughter when you're sick. Yeah, at the basic level. And I think just to finish off the point about being easy on ourselves and not being able to do everything all the time, I think the key there is allowing ourselves that it's okay. That's the thing, isn't it? Because we can all not do things. We all don't get things done. But the key is having planned in, it's a conscious choice, and it's okay because we chose that way. It's not that we're failing because we're overwhelmed. It's that we chose our priorities today and we wanted to spend the time with the kids, and therefore that doesn't get done in the business. Or we wanted to spend the time with the business, and that then we'll make up with the kids, you know, this evening or whatever. So it's that conscious choice as opposed to feeling pushed and not having any choice and control over our lives, isn't it? So there's something else that you said that I want to go back to too, where you said, especially in the creative fields as you are, you need to be creative in order to have your business successful, to write your books. But we know that when we're in stress, we're not, our creative powers are lessened. So how do you, as somebody who has to, like as Geeta was saying, she has to be healthy, that's her priority. How do you stay creative even in times when you're stressed?
Well, for me, well, I should say that I go exercising, but I don't. I do walk the dog. But for me, like the creative time is either having a meeting with my mum or my sister, or friends, meeting friends for a coffee, even if it's just for half an hour for a chat during the day, just having that, going outside. And a lot of seeing nature and views and things like that, for me, I find really, really inspiring. So I can go for a walk and look at something beautiful, and suddenly I'm inspired, and I'll come back and I can be writing for hours. But I do have to, I mean, that's why it's been quite hard with the isolation and everything, because I haven't been able to pop to a friend and just say, hi, can I come in for a coffee and a chat about anything, work, whatever, what they're up to, because then I come back rejuvenated. So I'm having to change the way I do things. A lot of it's online, make sure I keep those communications up with friends, and still have those creative meetings with family whenever I can.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important point. In lockdown, it's a brilliant way to get the creative juices and to get the open focus back on, and to get the brain back into a creative state if we've been stressed, is to have that practice. We all need to have a practice to get us back online, back thinking, back learning, whatever we're in, or back being creative. And I think it's a great practical tip to go outside. As soon as we go outside, our focus opens to that open focus, and the brain's more able to be creative. But also in nature, there's something fundamentally healing and about being in nature. But in lockdown, I've had people say to me, that was my escape, that was my solace, that was my mental health, that was how I kept myself sane after a long day, and now I can't do it. So how do you do that? What techniques have you found yourself developing to keep that, even though you're not able to as much because you're in lockdown?
No, I mean, well, for me, I found that a lot of writers, because obviously I talked to a wide variety of writers, and everybody was finding it quite isolating and hard to be creative for that reason, because they can't get out. So I've got a book group on Facebook, and I started a writing buddy session every day. So for an hour every day, we would get a group of us together, and we would literally just sit for an hour, and we'd work on either social media, or we'd work on our business, or we'd write blog posts, marketing, whatever, just for that hour. And actually it kind of brought us all together and lifted us up. And if we were in a bit of a slump and we hadn't put any words down, it actually got a lot of us really writing a lot. And for that, sort of hearing people getting back to work and things like that really helped me and lifted me up. And also it's things like having a clean office and things like that, where you've got space in your things and where you want them to be. That kind of helps with the calm and the zen and all that kind of thing. Or we were lucky enough, we were allowed out some of the time for walks. So, like I say, just going out in the garden with the dog, with kids, just to have a bit of fresh air, change of scenery. A lot of the time that was enough just to make me feel a bit more productive again.
Yeah, so there's some really great practical tips there too. So thank you. Number one, what I heard you say was, important to have a space that's your own, which is tough for a lot of people in lockdown with their kids at home, especially if they're not fortunate to have gardens. Like, I think that's been a real blow to mental health. We're all, but it doesn't have to be a big space, does it? And it could be time. So I think the message of making sure that you have space for yourself, and that's physical space and an emotional space as well, is really beneficial. And the other thing, and also practically, you said, you know, getting out when you can. So you might not be able to get out as much, but I know it's winter in England now, but at least when you can go out for a walk, go out for a walk. Don't be too tired or it's not your time. Make the most of those small windows of being able to get into nature, because they're not as prolific as they were. And then the other thing I heard you say, which I think is super useful, is coming together. So in a time where we're being told to socially isolate and distance and separate, which is so damaging for our mental health, consciously deciding to create an environment where you can come together, even if it's on Zoom. So I think that's a really important lesson, because many of us who have suffered this year, I think it goes for anybody, but I know that it goes for a lot of women. When we get into stress, we go inwards and we don't necessarily reach out. And so we might also cut ourselves off more socially when we need to. So consciously making the effort to make, whether it's work groups or just regular meetings where we can put some work down together, and that's our time. Even if it's 1 hour a week, if you're in, you know, those poor people who've been in complete lockdown with kids at home and no escape, that 1 hour for you to focus on the work will keep the business rolling. And then I also wanted to come back to, I wanted to ask you what you think about this. So talking about creativity, and we know that when we're in stress, we're less creative. If being in creativity is beneficial for us all, no matter whether we think our business is around creativity, like yours as an author, we're all creators. And especially if we're entrepreneurs, we're creating within our businesses. And knowing that when we're in stress, we're less creative, how do you kind of get out of that funk, I guess? But as a writer within your groups, I want to ask your opinion on, what's your opinion on the just push through? So there's a school of thought that's kind of like, when you're overwhelmed, you just set the time, set the date, set the group, and you just sit there and push through. So in I guess with writing, is it that you just put pen to paper and you make yourself write for 15 minutes, and knowing that the creativity comes from kind of restricting yourself and making yourself do it? Or do you wait? You know, do you get yourself into a state because you go out in nature and you might go and knock on a friend and have a cup of tea? Or like, how does creativity work for you?
This is the thing where, I mean, I'm a complete contradiction, because I think, you know, we can really isolate ourselves and think, oh, we don't want to be with anyone and this kind of thing. So it's hard to kind of reach out and help each other be creative sometimes. But for me, I can literally put a timer on the desk and then set that timer, and then I have to write, and I will sit there and write. But then other times I just need to feel creative. I need to feel like really in the moment, and therefore I do need to either join one of these groups and chat to people and just not be as isolated, because even though I work alone all the time, you know, it's still really isolating, and I do need that contact with other people. And other times I will just literally walk away from it. I will do something, it only needs to be for 15, 20 minutes, just literally either go and make a cup of tea, which I see as a treat while I'm writing, or a coffee, or, you know, occasional piece of cake or something. I'll give myself that treat, and then I will feel refreshed. Sometimes it might even be going to watch like reality TV or something like that for 10 minutes. And that's all it takes, just to reshift my focus away from, I need to get words on paper, I need to get words on paper, especially if I'm working to deadlines. Or actually, I've had a quick break, and I don't feel guilty about that break, because I needed that for my creativity and my productivity. And then I will sit there and then happily work for hours. So I think you've got to give yourself that time to work out what works for you, you know, what makes you creative, and then actually work that time, whether it be a break or a coffee or watching TV for half an hour, whatever it might be, to then come back, and you're far more productive when you come back.
Yeah. So So like we were talking about self-care earlier being a non-negotiable, because if you're sick, you're no good to your family. Putting in those slots of which brings about your creativity, or at least shift your state out of a stressed one, is going to help your flow. So that's what I'm hearing you saying. But also, I think there's that, I think a lot of people stop from moving forward, and I see this a lot in the world of entrepreneurs, is that we stop moving forward because we don't feel the inspiration. Do you know what I mean? And there's an element of just having to kind of get down and like take action to be able to get the clarity, and take action to be able to get to the next step. Even if we talked about failure earlier, even if it's a failure, you're moving forward and you've got that momentum.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm always pushing forward, trying for something new. I've got deadlines to work to, so I know kind of where I'm going. My days aren't, they're sort of structured and sort of not, so they can move and ebb and flow, but I do push myself to try new things, to get things done. And sometimes I just think, I've really got to do this, or I've got to write, another 10,000 words or something. But then I think we'll just get on with it then, because it needs to be done. I know I can do it. I just have to do it. You have to break through the procrastination. And sometimes once you start the work, then you find, actually, it's all right. I thought I couldn't do it, but I can do it. But you have to try, and you have to start, basically. You just get on with it. And it just sort of starts flowing from there.
And I'd love to kind of peck you a little bit for your top, because as a writer you have to do that, right? Because you must have deadlines where you have to produce a certain amount of words within a time. So you must be, now putting you on the spot, you must be an expert in defeating the procrastination. So what are your top tips for doing that when you feel not like it? How do you just get on and do it?
I mean, absolutely, you have to as a writer with deadlines. But I would just say, maybe, again, write yourself lists of the things that you think you should be doing, and then take away the ones that you actually don't need to be doing. So you're left with the ones that do need to be done, and then start with them. Because generally we procrastinate because we think we've got too much to do, or we can't cope with it. And then by the time we've wasted half the day worrying about the amount of things we've got to do in the day, we've missed half the tasks anyway. So you might have just shelved them for tomorrow. So I am one for literally compartmentalizing jobs, and I will do the ones that need doing, and I'll make myself get on with the ones that need doing. And quite often, once you've got through that first task, that is often the one that's putting you off doing anything. Once you've done it, then the rest you might end up doing the whole of the next day's work as well, because you've done the one that you really didn't want to do. And sometimes the one you really don't want to do, you actually don't need to do anyway. Yeah. So you could have just scrapped that early on and had a lovely day doing some nice creative work. So
amazing. Yeah, that's really good advice for everybody. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. You were talking earlier on, you mentioned cake. And because I'm reading your books, I have noticed there's a theme with cake. So I was wondering if you're a cake fan. And it brings me to want to ask you, where do you get your inspiration from the characters? So you did mention before that you want them to have the qualities that you kind of aspire to or need in those moments, or want to bring into the world. But you've kind of, now that you've got lots of books, you must have kind of done that. So where do you look to? How do you get your creativity for your new characters? I'd love to know how that comes about, because they're brilliant characters.
Oh, thank you. No, literally everywhere. When I'm traveling and walking around, I might literally, one of my books, I overheard a conversation, and it was a young girl was comforting an elderly lady that was crying. And that sparked a whole book just from thinking, in my family, there's sort of lots of different generations and we all interact. So in my books, there tends to be sort of younger people, older people, lots of different people, which I love. And it literally was something like that. I was in a restaurant and I saw someone cry, and I thought, oh, crumbs, just the relationship between the two people and the way the young woman was helping the other woman. And then it turned out they didn't actually know each other that well. So it could be something as simple as that, or being at school gates like Ninja School Mum. It was just looking around at everyone in the school and thinking, wow, supposing we didn't know each other, supposing we thought we knew each other, but actually we didn't know each other. What would happen then? Supposing everybody had secret lives. And it was literally as simple as that. And then Ninja School Mum came from that. So it's everyday life, really.
I love it. And when you, because you run now a lot of writers groups, and what was the thing I also wanted to thank you in advance. I'm not good on social media. I'm getting there, but I'm not on Insta. I'm not on Twitter. But you were the person who made me think, maybe I'll get on Twitter, because you run a 1 hour. Tell us about the Twitter thing.
Yeah, so I run a network now on Twitter called Creative Biz Hour. I started that years ago, just because to talk to creative people. I love talking to creative people. You can tell I like talking. It's just, I find it fascinating. I find business people fascinating, because obviously that's a theme through my books. And I've just always loved creativity. So I just wanted to encourage people. We didn't have to have a business. It was just all different people who like anything creative, to, to talk to each other. And from that, it's grown into, it's been going for 4 or 5 years now. It trends like very regularly. We have millions and millions of views in an hour every week. And it's just lovely to see people support each other's businesses. It's really nice.
We have a big fan here. Luna is saying, as you know, Lizzie, I love Creative Biz Hour.
Yes, lovely to see you. Thank you.
Through that and through, like, you obviously are a lover of people. I think this is, when you read books with brilliant characters in, you can see that you love people, and you observe them, and you're fascinated by them. I share that too. And as you say, the crazy people, like, I think we're all crazy, right? We all have, we're all crazy. So what top tips, what top things have you seen from running those creative meetings, for 4 years? You're seeing people all the time, you're helping people with their businesses. You obviously have huge business acumen, not only from running your own, but through your books. You can see, you write about them being, they're all entrepreneurs, and they're all awesome and creative. And so what are the top tips from kind of that angle that you could give us women now? So we've had the procrastination piece, which was amazing, and the just get on and do it piece, and the connect together. Are there any more little tidbits that you just see coming through as themes that stop people, and you're able to kind of just throw something in that helps them get over to the next level?
Yeah, I see it all the time with creative businesses, is self-doubt, really. It's people always think they can't do it. So they think, we'll put it off later, or I'll try another year, or one day, or they see other people doing it and wish they could do it. So really it's to try. I started my business, I didn't have any money behind me. I've just been made redundant. You can start a business with very little if you just learn. You can teach yourself. There's a lot of free classes online. There's things from local councils, the local banks often run business, where you can learn how to write a business plan and things like that. So there are resources out there that actually are for free. So it's worth looking into if you do want to start a business, or you're running a business and you need help. There are a lot of free resources. And also that if you fail at something, that's not so terrible. Because we've all failed at a lot of things. That's just how you grow a business. You try something, it doesn't work, and you think, oh, I'm useless. And then you think, actually, no, maybe I could tweak it, or I could change it slightly, and maybe it wasn't such a failure after all, or I've learned something from that, and I will then take that forward in my business. So don't always see failures as failures. See them as, you're learning something and moving on.
I love that. Thank you. And with the self-doubt piece, what do you see in people? I kind of like this question. What question do you see people asking themselves that enables them to get over the self-doubt? Or what do you see that helps people get over the self-doubt? Is it just seeing a success that they've done something? Is it just encouraging them to keep going? What is the thing that you see that shifts that self-doubt?
It's really seeing people try, because they start and then they think, maybe I can't do it. And then they push through that doubt and they really try. They reach out to customers, they start talking to people, and especially with business on social media, because there is, a lot of business done on social media these days, and I'm sure we're all on social media, and you can do business that way, but it is about being social. It isn't about please buy this, please buy that. And people think, well, why don't people respond to me? Why aren't people buying my products? And the reason is because social media is about being social. It's about making those connections, talking to people, not just assuming that everybody's after something. It's like people are there because they want to know about you. They want to know about your story. They want to know about how you built your business up, you know, and within your business, you've got that story. So share that with your customers.
Yeah, wonderful. We've got some agreement in the chat. Abigail's saying she agrees, and Luna's saying absolutely, self-doubt's a huge issue with creators, and imposter syndrome as well.
It's terrible. You're
going
to hear that all the time. People
huge with women in business, in particular, with self-doubt and the imposter syndrome. So what have you learned about that you can give us some tips on?
Same. I think we all feel it, because you all feel, you know, why am I doing that? Should I be doing that? You know, especially with writing books, because you're writing something that comes from the heart and then you're putting it out there for people to read and give an opinion on. It's very, very difficult. It's very hard not to doubt yourself sometimes. But again, you have to have that self-belief. And I think that comes with time as well. And it's about being kind to yourself and thinking, you know, I can do it, I can try it. And again, if something doesn't work, then try something else. But having that little bit of like inner strength in yourself that no one else can give you. It's literally, you can only give it to yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what I'm hearing is we all have the self-doubt, we all have imposter syndrome, we all naturally, I think, want to not necessarily put ourselves on the line. And in today's world, because to be successful in business, let's face it, you've kind of got to get out there in the social media, really. And that's really hard for a lot of people, because you have to show yourself. So as a writer, you have to show yourself within your books, and you have to show yourself. And how do you get past that? You get past that from just doing it, and gradually you start to realize you're okay. You didn't die. The stress levels go away a little bit, and you can keep moving forward, and do it with some self-care and love for yourself, and that you can't do everything, and prioritizing. That's a brilliant one you've given us. Like, what needs to get done? Don't go into overwhelm. What needs to get done? Like, what are all the things that are overwhelming me? Write them down, and then what actually needs to happen now? And then be okay with the rest that you've left behind. So self-care, and just keep moving forward. And with the movement forward, gradually you just chip at the self-doubt and it goes away. So it's not like you get rid of the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome and then move forward. You just accept that you have it, and you take a step forward, and you keep going, and gradually they get less. So
each challenge that you give yourself, again, those imposter syndrome feelings will come back, because you're doing something different again, whether it be you've just designed a new product, or you've written a new book, or you've written a poem, or you're doing a blog, or whatever you're doing. If you're doing something new, again, you're going to feel those same feelings. So just accept them. You know, it's not such a bad thing, because it gives you the push to keep trying. So I think, instead of feeling so fearful of these things, actually just take some empowerment from them.
Yes, and I think feeling the fear and doing it anyway, really taking that step. And then, as you said earlier, it will come back to me. It will come back to me. Gone for now. So I'm just looking at the clock, and I'm really going to honor your time, and thank you so much for being here. I want to ask you the questions that I'm going to ask everybody, which have to do with our summit. Reconnect, reset, and rejuvenate. So Lizzie, what are you going to connect with this Christmas holidays? Who or what are you going to take the time to reconnect with?
Oh, I'm so excited. My parents, hopefully, because I haven't hugged them since March. I'm really, oh my God, I'm not going to hug them anyway because of social distancing and whatever, just to be a bit closer to my parents, social distancing and everything. So excited. And, you know, just try and do the same, reconnect with some friends outside. And you know, if you can't be inside and you can't be in your gardens or whatever, then, you know, go for a walk in the park with someone and things like that. Try and just reconnect with everybody, really. Yeah, and nature too. If you haven't, I heard you say before, nature, so going out in the park, if we haven't managed to do that, reconnecting with nature too. And resetting, what or whom or how what are you gonna be resetting these holidays? For me, it'll be just new dreams, because once I've achieved something, then new dreams come along. So it's just, you know, sort of reaching for for the new dreams, really, which for me is usually another book or something like that, because the characters are in my head and they want to come out. So it's generally like I want to have a dream to, you know, get another book out here or there. So, you know, that's always a dream for me.
Do you find that the more you write, the more you create? Like, is it a flow?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's always different characters in my head all the time, so you have to kind of just get them onto paper, because new ones are there and they're kind of saying, well, hello, this is me, you know, because I tend to wing my books a bit. I don't have so much structure. I have some, but I tend to learn the story as I'm writing it, so it's quite exciting for me, because I kind of don't know what they're going to get up to next, you know. It's like quite good fun.
Well, that's also a good analogy for women in business, right? Is that we have the big vision, but how exactly we're going to get there, I think sometimes you've just got to take those steps and it unfolds.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. You know, give yourself a break, really, because as long as you're trying, and you're even small steps, it doesn't have to be gigantic ones. I think sometimes we set ourselves such big tasks that they're overwhelming, and we think, well, we're never going to do it. It's better sometimes to set yourself smaller tasks, and then you reach them and you're so proud, you know.
Yeah. And so finally, rejuvenate. How or what or who are you going to rejuvenate this year, this Christmas holidays, these holidays?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a bit more self-care and just trying to reset all my goals for next year. And, you know, just, again, I try and even take the little bits of time here and there, just because if, like, I'm too exhausted, then I'm no good to anyone. So, you know, adding a bit more sort of self-care time into my day, I think.
Awesome. Okay. You have given us so much this morning. Thank you so much.
That's been wonderful. Thank you.
It's so wonderful to talk to you. And I said at the beginning, but you're a very special person in my life for having switched me on back to the joy of books. Ninja School Mum, I can highly recommend, and all of the others I'm going to get through. I also know that we have at least 2 or 3. I don't know everybody that's here, but I know that we've got at least 2 or 3 aspiring writers. So I'm sure, and I'm like, I want to, you know, add it to the list of things we want to do. But I'd love to come and learn from you. So tell us where we can find you. We know we've got the Twitter daily creativity. Will we just find you via Lizzie Chantree on Twitter? And where else do we find you?
Lizzie Chantree on Twitter, or I'm LizzieChantree.com online. And then all my social medias and everything are on my website. But I do marketing tips on my website, and there's sort of lots of things about other authors. So yeah, come and say hi to me. I love chatting to people. I like talking about books and writing, or creativity and business. So yeah, join up and say hello.
Yeah, and all Lizzie's books are on Amazon. We can get them on Amazon. We can get them on Kindle.
Yeah.
Some of you will be getting them in your stockings. So thank you so much. I'm just looking at the chat now. We've got people saying thank you so much. Such wisdom this morning. Super helpful to hear about your creative, Lizzie. Your creative process, Lizzie. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Fabulous. Someone said I'm writing a novel, so this has been so wonderful. Thank you, guys. Look forward to many more. So thank you so much, Lizzie. I really look forward to seeing and chatting with you more. I'm going to come and find you and dig into your creative groups. I'm going to post, of course, you guys, about Lizzie and send out emails with all her information on, and you can get reading the books too, and then we can I want everybody in our school to read the Ninja School Mum, because then we'll all be looking at one another.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone.
Have a wonderful Christmas and holiday.
You too. Take care, everybody.
Take care, Lizzie. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye. You're so inspiring. Someone else has said, Lizzie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So again, everybody that's still on here, thank you so much for being with us. I'd love if you just take a second now and write in the chat box your takeaway from Lizzie. If you haven't done already, just write in. I always do this whenever I'm teaching, just get you to kind of think about a takeaway, because it just ingrains it in your grey matter more. So, and also we love to hear about it, because we never want these to be just something you come and watch and then go away from. But what are you going to take away? What's going to change in your life? What are you going to add to your life because you've just heard the amazing Lizzie talk? What was your takeaways? Let us know in the chat. Don't be shy. And while you're doing that, I will let you know we're going to take a break now for an hour. I think England will probably go to bed. Australia, we will go and get our breakfast. America, I think it might be afternoon for you over there. So we'll see you, you know, some afternoon tea maybe. Thank you so much, Creative Business Hour. Feel the uncomfortable. Here we go. Awesome. I love reading these. So thank you, guys. Please take the time to write to us your takeaways. So Creative Business Hour, feeling the uncomfortable and keep on doing something each day. I love that. So just moving forward, and we can envisage ourselves as a writer, can't we? Sometimes in our business, when we've got so much to do, if we don't have deadlines set by other people, it can be really difficult. So I kind of like the idea of feeling, you know, channeling Lizzie a little bit and feeling like we're an author and we have to get stuff done. So just writing a few words every day, just taking one step towards the goal every day. Don't be overwhelmed by jobs. Don't do things that can wait. Completely agree. Thanks, Holly. As super women, we think that we can do it all, and we can do it all, just not at once. So I love Lizzie's advice of just when we feel the overwhelm, get a piece of paper, get a pen, write everything down, and then decide what has to be done now and what can wait. And then the big thing there is being okay with the stuff that doesn't get done. Allowing yourself that kindness, that's okay, because it's a choice. 4:30 here. Thanks, Abigail. I'm assuming that's in the afternoon, otherwise you're amazing. So we've got an hour. We'll be back in an hour. You're 5:30. Lana says, it's okay to take breaks of self-care, and even 3 words in one day is enough. It is steps in the right direction and all amounts to the wonderful end product. Totally agree. So whether we're writing a novel, whether we are creating a business or product, just taking those little steps every day and we will get there. Would love to stay and hear more from you, but it's bedtime. Thank you so much for staying up. We will have the recording, so you'll be okay. Owl, good night. Luna, yep, heading off now. Feeling inspired to add some words for your novel. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Anita says, so many positive ideas. Just do it is a good mantra. Looking forward to rejoining you in the morning tomorrow. So for those of you in England, thank you so much for staying up this late. It really means the world to us. For those of us in Australia, let's go get some breakfast, and I'll see you back here in an hour.